party people! Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week I am joined by Nick Robertson, GM of the Tabletop Squadron podcast, for a game of Feng Shui 2. Feng Shui is the role-playing game of Hong Kong action flicks, in which players take on the roles of heroes from across time and space in a multi-dimensional battle for control of the future. It's dope, it's one of my favorite games, we played it before on the show, and I cannot wait for you to hear this episode. Tabletop Squadron is a Star Wars Edge of the Empire actual play podcast that publishes every other week about a group of scoundrels trying to stay under the Empire's radar. It's really fun, you can check it out at tabletopsquadron.com. And without any further ado, let's throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me.
Thanks, future me. This week, I am sitting down with Nick Robertson. Nick, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
So, real quick at the top of the show, why don't you take a moment and tell the audience at home about anything you're working on that you want them to know about, any cool podcast you're a part of, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I'm Nick Robertson. I am the host and game master for Tabletop Squadron. It is a Star Wars Edge of the Empire actual play podcast, so it gets a little Firefly, a little Star Wars, got a bunch of alien rejects floating through the stars, learning about each other, and mostly getting into a lot of trouble.
Good stuff. I love it. I love it a lot. So this week on the show, we are playing Feng Shui 2, the genre-hopping, time-skipping game of Hong Kong action flicks. With that in mind, why don't you take a moment and introduce us to your character?
Yeah, so my character is a spy named Milo Fulton. He is a extractionist expert, gets sent in to bring valuable targets out, and his big deal is he was burned and now does this privately. He has blonde, feathered 70s style hair and aviator sunglasses, and always has his shirt half unbuttoned.
Excellent. That's a good 70s spy look. I love it, especially for a burned spy. That says burned spy to me.
Yeah, he lost the tie. They took it away from him when he got kicked out.
Give me your badge, your gun, and your tie.
Yeah.
It's silk, and we paid a lot of money for it.
Yeah, and then he kept the gun, so that tells you the priorities.
Yeah. So, the year is 1978. The Cold War is in full swing. Mutually assured destruction looms on both sides of the Iron Curtain. But that doesn't really matter to you, because you're on the outside. You've been burned, you've been doing this privately. A paycheck's a paycheck to you. However, tell me where you are when you get a call from your old boss.
So, I think Milo's in a tiki bar, probably in Florida. There's a pretty view of white sands and blue water, but not that pretty. I don't think this is high budget enough to have like a Caribbean set. And he's wearing a open Hawaiian shirt and he has a beer, and he's just tilted back at the bar, staring at the ocean and ignoring the bartender asking about his bill that's come due.
Right. So I think what has happened here is there is a person has offered you a drink, and like it's this very sweaty looking businessman from the mainland or from like up north, like a New York businessman, and he's real sweaty, and he's talking to the bartender a lot, and what happens is he gives you a meaningful glance. Like, he's been kind of ignoring you, but he gives you a meaningful glance, and he gets up and like puts some money on the counter and says, "Buy one for my friend here as well." Gets up and leaves, and you notice that his briefcase is still on his stool. And you recognize this as an old spy trick.
Oh, yes. The most subtlest of spy tricks. I think Milo definitely immediately switches to top shelf alcohol, which at this particular bar probably has to be dusted off before it's poured. Yep. And he takes a quick glance at the briefcase. Standard protocol is probably to make sure it's not some sort of double back trick with a bomb or something, and then decides he's not that valuable, and he just grabs it and cracks it open.
So it is a double back, but it's full of documents, not explosives.
Oh, that's good.
So it was the right call to check it. Because you open it up, the main one is just full of, like, finance reports. But the double back, like the secret back panel has an actual, like a tiny, like it opens up to almost a movie screen, like a little projector screen, which tells you that you should probably take this somewhere you're not going to be noticed.
Yeah, so that would normally make sense. But what Milo's going to do is kind of turn it around to show the bartender, and he says, "Hey, Mike, it looks like that guy was a spy. That's crazy, right?" And he's just going to crank it up sitting in his seat.
Yeah, crazy. So is this a distraction? Are you still not? All right, whatever. And the bartender walks off. And the film reel starts playing, and it was your old dispatcher from the spy days. So what I want to do right now is I want to lay out who your old boss is, and I want to do that collaboratively.
Okay.
Here's what's important about this character. He's your boss. He was kidnapped, and he's not an active spy. Like, he's not going to be kicking ass and taking names.
Okay.
So I want to ask you. I think we'll both give two major details about this guy, like who he is, what he looks like, quirks and features, history. The two of you share that kind of thing. So why don't you go first?
All right. So I'm gonna say that Milo's former boss is so older, a little overweight, and missing an arm.
Missing an arm. Okay. So I think that okay, yeah, I got it. I think he is specifically probably played by like yesterday's action star. So in this case, he's played by like a John Wayne, like a Western star from the 50s.
Oh, I love that.
And that's kind of how he's got that kind of like old gunslinger physique, where he's like a little overweight, but he still kind of looks like he could kick your ass. And it's definitely like oh my god, look, it's John Wayne. Yeah. And so he's got that very distinct kind of like, looks like he would fit in a gunfight.
That's great. Can we also have it that even though he's in a spy movie this time, he's still wearing his signature cowboy hat?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he's got a 3-piece suit and a cowboy hat.
Oh yeah,
it's a good look. It's a good look. And I think my other thing I want to say is, I think he was known for being bullish. He was known for being a war hawk. Wet work came easily to him, and it was sort of where he went first. He was sort of his spy policies were shoot 'em all and let God sort 'em out.
Yeah, I think that works really well, because Milo and him probably didn't get along that well, because Milo was more of a finesse guy. Like he'll wet work if he has to, but he would usually go to extreme lengths to avoid just going in the front door, not because he necessarily values human life, but because he's it was harder that way, and he likes to show off.
Sure. He's got a little vanity. He wants to look cool.
Oh,
Who
yeah.
doesn't?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I got a very clear. So you get this message. It starts playing. He's wearing the cowboy hat. His vest is unbuttoned, and his tie is like half off. He's real sweaty. He's kind of hunched over. And he says, Fulton, I bet you're surprised to see this, but I gotta be honest with you. Desperate times, you know the saying.
Yeah, that's that one tattoo I've got on my bicep, Desperate Times.
Right now you're probably making a joke about desperate times, despite the fact that this has been pre-recorded. I'll let you finish the joke. Anyway.
Yeah. Aw, man, he always gets me with that.
I know I always get you with that. I know you pretty well. So, here's the deal. I'm in a pickle, and I need the best pickle puller outer that I can get a hold of, and that's you. That's you, Fulton. But here's the situation. I was meeting some contacts. I was meeting some, some across-the-curtain types. We were doing a little bit of negotiation, exchanging assets, if you will. And unfortunately, things went, the industry term is, shit hit the fan. So, I don't know who they are or what their plan is, but some boy's done taking this airport that I'm in, and I need you to come in and get me out of it. Ideally, in a way that gets these biker boys, whoever they are, they're a bunch of leather jacket and metal plate wearing who's what's its. I need you to pull me out. I trust you'll do this. But if you're on the fence, twice the normal payment. Nah, make it 3 times. Desperate times. I'm counting on you, kid. You do this, who knows? Maybe that record of yours gets wiped away a little bit. Over and out, buddy. And you know the deal. Self-destruct, 5 sec. What you get, you know. Standard protocol.
So Milo grabs the briefcase and tosses it behind the bar as a distraction, and then just books it down the beach because he's not paying that tab. That's like a 2-month tab. That ship has sailed.
And as you're running, like you start running, and the camera kind of pans back, and the bartender like kind of shields his face and starts like cowering, and just like a small amount of smoke comes up from the briefcase as it just kind of like burns up in a very like discreet and mundane effect, and it's just like, oh, well, that was underwhelming. Oh, spies, yeah. Underwhelming makes sense. Okay. I guess that checks out.
There's a reason I've been burned.
Good. Alright, so, you've got your mission. They gave you coordinates. It is, Kingsbury Airport. Kingsbury, upstate New York. What's your plan of action? Are you going in solo? Are you taking the direct route? Are you doing any prep work beforehand? What is Milo's game plan?
So I think Milo probably calls in a favor with some friends to get a jet to take him from Florida to New York, and also calls in some more favors, and he's met on the tarmac by somebody with a big stack of files, and he's going to use the flight to research these biker who's what's it. He's heard of the who's what's it's gang before.
Yeah, you're looking into this. You get the files. I'm going to ask you for a skill roll right now.
Okay.
I'm going to figure out exactly what skill.
I have geopolitics.
That would work.
I'm not good at it. I'm not good at it, but I got it.
Give me that. I'm going to set the difficulty at 10. And if you hit a 14 or better, you get really valuable information.
Sweet. I got a 4 and a 1 on the die.
Yeah, so the way you're going to take that is you're going to take your 4, which is your positive and which is your negative.
I got my white die as my positive, and my black die as my negative.
Alright, so, is your white die 4 or 1?
It's the 4.
Okay, so you're going to take your 4, subtract 1 from your 4, so you get a swerve of 3. You're going to add that to your score, you're going to tell me the result, and you're going to compare that to the difficulty.
Alright, so that's a 15 in geopolitics.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, I'm going to tell you what you need to know, and then I'm going to let you ask me, ask me 2 questions, and I will answer them honestly.
Okay.
So here's the deal. If you're looking into this, you've got folders, about every crime syndicate, biker gang, drug cartel, money laundering scheme, pyramid scheme. If somebody's doing something illegal, and the spy game knows about it, you've got a file on them in front of you. You're looking at the pictures that were included in the dossier that was given to you. These boys don't match any of this. Somehow this is a gang that has eluded the very thorough eyes of the intelligence community. They look just weird. Leather jackets with shoulder pads, like metal-plated, stitched on. You know, mirrored sunglasses. Big sci-fi looking guns. They're a weird set. And they don't look especially organized. They kind of look like they're just running roughshod. There's no like uniform. You're not really, you see a patch on it, but it's not one that you recognize, and it's kind of in different places, different size. Looks like it's made out of different materials. This is like a kind of a ragtag bunch to like successfully capture and hold hostage an airport. Ask me 2 questions.
All right. What would Milo, I think, is pretty interested in what would they stand to gain by kidnapping a spy master?
There's a picture included in the dossier that is like rows of people kind of sitting in like Star Wars manacles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're not the handcuffs that you've seen. These are not regulation handcuffs. And it just seems like it seems less like they captured your boss, who I realize we haven't named, so his name is now Tex Arcana. That's not Tex. Like, Tex is there. You see him in one of the discrete photos that one of, like, his agents has snapped. Which also tells you that, like, there's a number of spies on the scene, but you already knew that because Tex told you that he was meeting with his Russian counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
His Soviet counterparts were also there. So there's a contingent of spies on both sides hanging out at this airport. But you also see just ordinary people being held hostage, right? Like, you see just random... It seems like they just took whoever was there and are holding whoever is there hostage. But it also seems like they're the thing that, like, armed guards are standing around in these, like, clandestine photos are the gates. Are the terminals and the platforms and the gates. It seems like they're more interested in holding the airport than they are about holding people, and that the people are at best casualties of circumstance, at worst added collateral.
Okay, so that would then lead me to ask the question, do I know anything secret or underground about the what do we say, Newark Airport?
The Kingsbury Airport.
Kingsbury Airport. That's a much better airport.
It's shot at Newark, but we call it Kingsbury. Partially because Kingsbury has a dock that we have to shoot at one of the offhand sound stages.
Uh-huh.
So Kingsbury Airport is brand new. It is the shining beacon of modern transport. They call it the gateway to tomorrow. It is this, like, pristine... It is an airport, but it also has, like, a ship, like, a boatyard off of it. It's, like, connected to a shipping yard. It's also got a train that runs through it, which is us taking advantage of the Newark train station. It honestly works out really well from a shooting perspective. But it is, and they say it's like, you know, however you travel, you can get to Kingsbury. By train, by plane, by boat. It's connected to everything.
Interesting.
And so, it is it could have a lot of logistical promise to an organization that was looking to maybe take hold of, like, smuggling goods or sort of, like, hold bullet trains hostage. But that also seems like it would require a level of organization that you're not seeing for, like, they don't seem to be, you know, I guess what I would say is, if that was their goal, they would have announced it to the world by now. They've held on to it for a few days. And if that was their goal, but that would be the only reason you would capture this, right? As to the best of your knowledge.
Yeah. Well, I think Milo gets that information and kind of stores it away, and then suits up in a flight suit with a parachute and gets ready for his assault on this airport.
It's the flight suit and the parachute looks very cool, especially because I think, if I may add a detail.
Oh, of course.
I think you parachute in, and partway through the parachute detaches, and you're free falling, and you open your arms, and it's one of those wing suits.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, you're parachuting, and then you fall, and then you glide onto, like, a helipad / like, the ventilation ducts. And now you are in the upper levels of the airport.
I think there's a quick snapshot of Milo taking his futuristic wingsuit off, and he's still wearing just like a mostly unbuttoned white dress shirt and slacks underneath. So
Good.
he goes from tactical gear to comfy gear again real quick.
Good, as he should. We've got the action figures made. We need you to be wearing the outfit.
Yeah. So I think Milo's plan is he's going to work top down and see how long he can go without this becoming a physical conflict and scope it out, because his outfit, of course, is for the action figures, but also he may just look like a wandering, slightly sleazy hostage.
Make me an intrusion roll. Let me double check that that's the right skill that I want to use, but I'm pretty sure it is.
Works for me. I have intrusion, so.
Give me an intrusion roll. We're going to set the difficulty here. Because you look the way that you look, we're going to set it a little lower than we probably could. We're going to set it at about a 10.
Okay. I got an 11.
Good. You are able to move around you're able to move around at least like the upper levels fairly seamlessly. Like we get a montage of you kind of like scoping the place out. And you pass by maybe a few of these armed guards, and you get your first really good look at them. Like I said, they're all wearing, one of them's wearing a leather jacket with one sleeve and a metal shoulder pad. Another one's wearing a big long brown trench coat that has, like, patches, and some of them are, iridescent or, like, color changing. It's got a big, basically a Dragon Ball Z Saiyan scouter on, like one of those big one-eyed visors.
Ooh.
Another one is wearing a denim vest with spikes and this big, a big version of the patch that you see on all of them in various sizes and shapes and materials. Big old patch on the back, neon piping, Geordie LaForge visor. And they've all got big guns. One of them's a slug thrower shotgun. One of them is a big laser rifle. The kind that you've only seen in, the lab, back when you were in the game. And, one of them has this kind of long, weird-looking revolver-y pistol.
Okay.
But you see them, you get this good look at them, and you start to get a good look at the airport, and it's weird. It doesn't match what was in the photos. I mean, it does. It looks like it did once. But, the decor just seems different. The building just seems different. There are posters put up. There's spray paint on the walls. The signs, the mechanized signs that are saying where departures are coming in and leaving from are digitized in a way that you've never really seen before. And it's all neon colors, green and blue and white, all on black backgrounds. And it just feels like the whole place is changing in a way that you can't quite pinpoint.
Does it, so it has all these shiny lights and everything, does it also look kind of dirty, or is it pristine still? Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of got, papers are strewn about. There's this layer of dirt along the floor of the wall, and it looks like it could just be dust because, everybody's been on lockdown for a few days, but it just kind of feels grimy.
I think we get a close-up shot of Milo, and he whips his sunglasses off and says, "Talk about your urban decay." And then
Dang.
We get a swipe cut as he runs off down the hallway.
That's very good. All right. So you're scoping out the area. Do you have any questions you want to ask? Any other things you want to investigate before you start digging in deeper?
I think if he could find, if there is a group of hostages that are not with the whole big group, he would probably try to rescue a couple of them first to get more information and see if he could get some boots on the ground info.
Yeah, I'll definitely let you make a skill check for that. Let me see. That might be another intrusion, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, let's call that another intrusion.
All right, let's see what happens. We got a
and this is
13.
This is going to be a 12. We'll say, you know what? I was going to say 14, and I'm going to stick with that because I want to get to the fun part. I want to get to the fun thing and say that, like, you find a group of hostages.
Uh-huh.
But we'll put it, I'll say you're able to follow these three, very intimidating looking, hostage takers, like these three, like low-level soldiers. You're able to follow them to a group of hostages.
Okay.
But, like, it seems like you'll be able to get a hold of them, and you definitely recognize one of the hostages here as a fellow player in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be able to get some very good questions if you take these three mooks out.
Okay. But I failed getting to them stealthily, didn't I?
Yeah. You're not going to be able to. So yeah, you weren't able to get, like, you're kind of trailing them and you see the hostages, but then you see the three mooks turn the corner. So if you want to get to them, you're gonna have to, like, go through the mooks.
Okay. With the in the interest of failing forward, I feel like Milo thinks that he was being stealthy, but they were just leading him somewhere where they had the advantage.
Oh, that's good. I love that.
So he gets around the corner and he hears it silent, so he thinks that they had gotten too far ahead, and he turns around and they're all just aimed at him. Mm-hmm. And we get a shot of Milo, just shirt blowing in the breeze of his momentum, and he goes, "Uh-oh." Not
Good.
all his one-liners are gold, Jeff.
Nope. Sometimes that's about what it is.
Yep. Okay, so I guess I'm gonna fight these dudes.
Do I give out fortune point dice? Is that what happens? That's something I gotta look up. I know you start out with some, but I don't remember if I can give you additional.
I don't know. I start with 7. I don't know if I'd be able to burn through all those if I tried, but
take a fortune point before we dive in for failing forward and for coming up with at least one very good spy one-liner.
Oh man, you've started a dangerous precedent, Jeff.
Nope, that's what the game is. That's where we're at. So yeah, all right, we have begun combat. It's time to kick in some heads.
All right.
So what happens is, they've got their guns pointed at you. There's 3 of them. One of them is sort of like squat and muscular. One of them is wearing a long trench coat with a scouter on and a laser rifle. And one of them has just an old school shotgun with a leather jacket and and a shoulder pad. And they've all kind of got their guns aimed at you. We're in the gate area of, like, a major metropolitan airport, so any props or scene bits that you want to add to that related to that, feel free.
Okay.
So the first thing we're going to do is roll we're going to start our first sequence. Fights in Feng Shui 2 are made up of sequences. We're going to roll our speed. You're going to roll a d6 and add your speed. That's going to determine the number of shots in the sequence that you get.
I got a 6, so that means my total is 13.
All right. My speed is 5, so I got a speed of 10. Let's see, 10, 7, and 7. Yours was 13?
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay, so you get to go first. Decide what you do. Most actions take 3 shots, with one exception. Because you are by yourself, because we are playing this with only one protagonist, you have a special ability that's not on your character sheet that is automatically granted to you whenever you fight more than one mook at a time.
Nice.
So your attacks against mooks, instead of taking 3 shots, as is normally listed in the rules, your attack against mooks, when there are more than one of them, only take up 1 shot.
Oh, man. Okay.
So, you go first to describe your first action.
All right. Well, I had one plan, but now that you've given me superpowers, Jeff, I'm going to do a different plan.
Good.
All right. So I think the first thing that Milo's going to do, because somehow he's super comfortable when other people have the drop on him, is he's going to... I think the gate that they're next to is under construction. Okay, so it has a lot of signage and stuff up, and he's going to grab one of those sandwich boards and just throw it at the group of them, and just go action rolling towards them under the cover that he's created and try to uppercut the guy with the shotgun.
Love it.
So would that be... Yeah.
So you're going to make your attack roll. That is you're going to roll your 2d6. You're going to subtract 1 from the other. You are going to add your martial arts to that roll. Or your guns, depending on your martial arts or your guns, depending on whether you're shooting or striking.
All right, we're going to do martial arts this time. His gun's in his back pocket. He forgot about it. He got a 17.
Beautiful. Describe how you take out this first mook.
So I think the sign kind of trips up the other two guys, and we get the shot from the thug's perspective as he looks at the two guys who got hit with the sign, and he looks back, and Milo's right in front of him, and he says, "This gate is closed," and he uppercuts him under the jaw.
Good. Very good. Yeah, he gets knocked. He just gets knocked out, right? Like, you take him out. It is you get to continue to go. The next guy is you have 2 more shots, which means you can make 2 more attacks before they get to go. Great.
So he's going to draw his Walter PPK, because of course that's his gun of choice.
Of course.
And he's going to try and kneecap the guy next to him and just really make sure that his hair's catching the sunlight through the grimy windows.
Yeah.
And he got a 15 plus 1 because I punched someone last time, so a 16.
Down. Take him out?
Yeah. So he kneecaps the guy and then just backhand pistol whips him, and we get a shot of a tooth in bullet time flying off screen, I think. And then, yeah. And then he'll go after the last one, and he's going to... he's gonna just straight up Karate Kid. He's gonna try to do a crane kick on this guy as the bad guy tries to bring a gun to point at him.
Yep. Bringing down this big laser rifle.
Oh, goodness. You. I hope this works. Ooh, not so much.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, if you roll any 6s on either dice, they explode and you keep rolling and you keep rolling and adding them together.
That's a really good thing you pointed out, because I just got a -10 on my bad dice, so that's gonna be a 5 plus 1, so I got a 6 on this last guy.
Great, good. Yeah. So you go for the crane kick, and before you can even act, let's see, hold on. I think you get 1. Yeah, before you can act, what happens is you go for the crane kick and he swats your leg away, so you kind of spin around and rifle butts you in the back of the head, so you kind of fall flat on your face. And then he cocks the gun and takes aim at you. What's your next move? What's your next attack?
So the next attack, I think he was going for showy. He knew there was a spy in this group, and he was trying to build some rapport there to make later easier. And he just kind of rolls his eyes and clutches at the back of the head and just shoots the guy from the ground without getting up.
Good. Excellent. Roll your guns. Roll your guns. And add +1 because you used martial arts on your last attack.
So I got a +7 on my good die, so that's a 22.
Dang. Okay. You take out the mook. Describe how you take out the mook, and then because you rolled so high, describe what other advantage you get.
So I think so we have the shot from kind of over the shoulder of the mook and the laser charging up, and we just see a bullet hole in the back of his chest, and the guy slumps down, and the camera refocuses on Milo, who's on the ground, and he's managed to turn this into a kind of a tableau. He's reclining, and the gun smoke is going up, and he says, "Pardon me for not getting up," and he holsters his gun. And I think the bonus thing he gets is he's able to pull a chunk off of this laser rifle that looks unstable, that he could maybe throw at someone later for
I love it. I
cool
love that
explosions.
I love that you didn't just take the rifle. I love that you specifically took the more ridiculous option.
Milo looks at it for a second and goes, "This looks complicated," and just pulls the glowing bits out of it and puts that in his pocket.
Good. Beautiful. So you freed about a half a dozen hostages at this gate, including, and we're gonna do like kind of like what we did for Tex and build a character out for this this woman that was in the spy game when you were in the spy game. I think so. We'll each go back and forth and give two details. I think the detail I want to give is she is your counterpart in a lot of ways, both in that she was working for the Soviets and that she's subsequently been burned and just working for the highest bidder.
Yeah, that's
good. And much
good.
like Black Widow, she doesn't have an accent because I'm not going to try and do that accent.
Maybe it only comes out really poorly when she's very emotional. So we'll give it one try later.
Yep, I love that.
Okay. I think that she has a hammer and sickle tattoo on one of her shoulder blades that is heat sensitive ink, so it only shows up when she's like fighting and her body temperature is up.
That's good. That's very cool. And I think the other detail I want to add is her specialty was because Tex was here to negotiate basically like asset retrieval. Her specialty was that, and the reason that she's here, even though she's no longer like with the Soviets, is her specialty is networking. She knows everyone and knows who everyone knows, right? Like she is connected to every social circle. So like they burned her for some reason or another. Or maybe she even just quit because she realized she could make a better profit forcing them to pay her independently rather than stay, like, getting a payer, like a loyal, like an agent's salary.
Okay. I think with that information, her being in the airport would be a pretty big surprise because Milo probably got his portfolios through her organization. So
I love that.
Yeah. So he is stunned to see her. We probably get the over the sunglasses, open-jawed look as she walks up to him, which is especially impressive since he threw his sunglasses earlier, but they're back.
Mm-hmm. Right. And last but not least, we'll say her name is Anna Trevitsola.
Anna Trevitsola.
Anna like approaches you, kind of like looks at like the thing in your hand for a while and just says, "You know, you could have just taken the rifle. It's the thing about guns is the technology hasn't really changed. You sort of still point and click."
Oh, I know you were always getting on me, Anna, for leaving things hanging out. Let me just put that away. And he tucks it into his back pocket, which apparently can hold all sorts of things.
For sure. You're a spy. Spies have big pockets.
Big pockets.
Not as deep as Uncle Sam. Yeah, That's right. This movie just got political, everybody.
When will we end this senseless violence? Also, let's shoot some people.
So, the two of you kind of like duck into like an employee break room that is covered in graffiti and newspapers, but not newspapers that you recognize. Like, you're looking, like, they are immediately, the headlines and stuff are weird, and if you make a detective roll, you can learn more from them. But, but like, the two of you are just, like, chatting for now.
All right. He probably leaves the newspapers alone at first. I would say one of the bigger things that Milo notices that something is off is he doesn't recognize any of the snacks in the snack machine. And he looks at Anna and says, "Man, they really set about changing this place. I thought it was brand new. This does not look brand new."
You don't know the half of it. You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
You know, Anna, we've known each other for a long time. I could believe a lot of things. I wouldn't have thought you could have outdrank those power lifters, but I still owed you that $100.
Owed? You still owe me that $100.
Yeah, I do recall throwing an exploding briefcase and running away when I lost that bet.
Yes. I believe we both remember that. And she kind of like taps a scar on her face. I believe we both remember that very well.
Well, what if I rescue you from some hostage takers and we call it even? Oh wait, I just did that.
I was working on it, I was close. It's called going undercover. Maybe you could learn a thing or two. We're not doing this right now. We're not doing this. I'm not getting into this.
So
here's the deal. This just sort of happened.
Huh.
They didn't when they showed up, when these weirdos showed up a few days ago, they took the gates, they held them, they locked them down, and then this just sort of happened. Couldn't tell you when. It felt like it was in a blink of an eye. Like I turned a corner and suddenly everything was spray painted with "Damn the Man." But it just sort of, it felt like the place itself just changed. Like it just became theirs, and everything about it took that on. And I don't know what that means, but I know they're holding it. And I've heard them talking about something. Reinforcements. And that doesn't sound great.
I think, so Milo runs his hands through his beautiful 70s hair and shakes it out.
Yep.
And he looks Anna deep in the eyes and says, well, the good news is I'm not a mystery solver. I extract people. And my job is to extract people. So...
Yep. Good job. Great job on that one.
Yeah, thanks. The job description here was to get to Texarkana and get him out. I need to know where he is.
Well, that's the problem. If that's your job, that's a problem. And she brings you over to, like, a small monitor that has been, like, wires are hanging from it, and it's tied into this big, like, whirling disc 70s mainframe computer.
That's convenient.
One of them hacked this up. They're all over the place. It's how they're watching the airport. They already had closed-circuit TVs, they just added wires and neon lights to it. It seems to just be their thing.
So they've created some sort of network that allows them to see things? Amazing.
Right? It's fine. You're doing great, buddy. and she turns on the monitor, and Tex is... You see two people. You see, in an army jacket and with slick back hair, a chrome jaw, and, like, neon pink sunglasses. Somebody sitting in an office chair and just spinning, as people as two guards stand around him, like, carefully watching. Anna turns to you. I know it doesn't look like it, but that's the guy in charge. And she gestures a little bit to the left, which is where you see... How to explain this? A robot gorilla? And that's his bodyguard.
Well, I didn't know the zoo had gotten so desperate for tourists that they're getting all robotic, but I'm sure it'll be fine.
I'm sure it'll be great. Have fun. Here's Tex, and the last thing you see is Tex on his knees in binders in front of swirling chairman. Tex, pretty bruised and beaten up, and Anna says, "You know, Tex. After sending you that message, he saw an opportunity and he went for it. You know, shoot first and ask questions later. And they beat the tar out of him and have him chained up there and are holding him as they call it, ransom until backup gets here.
Leave it to Tex. When he sent me the message, he wasn't beat up, so he asked for help and then immediately decided he had no confidence in me and tried to do it himself. Yeah, this is why we have a strained professional relationship, Anna. Could you believe this?
You know what? Okay, look, I don't like you. Like I'm not. We don't get along. But Tex is ridiculous,
right?
What? How is that cowboy hat subtle? How do you just wear a cowboy hat and think it looks natural?
You know, I asked him once when we were at a bar, and all he would say is that people only looked at the hat and they wouldn't remember his face. But the thing is, he never takes the hat off, so if they see the hat, they still know it's him. We had this conversation.
He's also got a really distinctive face. Like, he's got one of those faces that you remember.
Well, and that mustache.
Right? He has a yeah. Oh my! I would much rather be working with you than Tex. I'll leave it at that.
Milo gets a faraway look at his eyes, and we get a close up, and the music gets more dramatic, and he says, "I'd much rather be working with me too."
Yes, I'm sure you would. All right, and so give me a detective roll to look at the newspapers. I'll tell you what you notice about them immediately, but I want to see what else you know about them. What I'll say is, if you get a 10, you can ask me one question, 14, 2, 18, 3, etc., etc.
All right, so I'm going to spend a fortune die on this because Milo, a detective, is not. And we'll see what happens. Okay. 6 plus 7, so 13.
13. All right, ask me. So what you see immediately? These are weird newspapers. Partially because this has to be a prank. This has to be a prank, right? Who made newspapers for 20 years in the future? Who made newspapers for 30 years in the future? What? This newspaper says it's from 2008. That's 40 years from now. 30 years from now. That's from 30 years from now. This says that they're making an 8th Star Wars in 2017? How are you going to make 8 Star Wars movies? They just made the one. That's ridiculous.
It stands on its own. It doesn't need sequels.
Right? It told a complete story. So yeah, these are covered in events that don't seem to have happened, and pictures that are weird, and you see styles rapidly evolving, and things just get really harsh and dark and really rough. And in the end, then you start seeing newspapers from 2020, and everyone is dressed kind of like the mooks from earlier in vests and laser guns, and then you just see pictures of devastation, right? A big... In the grand tradition of movies about time travel, you see a big newspaper that just says, "The End!" And there's a big, an atom bomb explosion at 2022.
Uh-oh. Okay. I think while Milo's flipping through this, he definitely finds one of the earlier ones and tears out the page with the horse racing and tucks that into his pants just in case.
Perfect. Yep. Exactly right.
Yeah. And probably before that scene ends, he again looks straight into the camera and says, "Well, it looks like the future isn't so perfect."
So, ask me 2 questions as you're sort of looking. What do you want to know?
Okay, so I would like to see if any of the far future newspapers mention anything about chrome-plated, pink sunglassed gang members. That seems maybe I can learn a little about them.
Yes, actually, one very close to the the end. There is you see who is undeniably who this guy was. He doesn't have the chrome jaw. He doesn't have the chrome arm. He's younger, still in the same jacket, still with the same hair. And it says Simon Vex. That's Simon Cymon, because it's the future.
Ooh.
It says Simon Vex, high-ranking military official arrested for sabotage. Court-martialed and arrested. Grand jury hearing is tomorrow. And scribbled on pens, it just says, "They set me up. The architects set me up."
Okay. It's kind of in the same vein, but man, I gotta find out more about this robot gorilla, if there's anything in there.
There's actually a full-page ad that just says, "Gorillon, the gorilla of the future!" And it's just like a big picture of this gorilla. And it's like, well, that was kind of a weird invention. I don't really know what 2012 was thinking, but they were really into robot gorillas, apparently.
Well, perfect.
Your question has been answered.
Yep, so it has. That's everything I needed to know.
So what's your game plan from here?
So Anna, do you know where these cameras are pointed?
And she looks around. She kind of like leans out the door. She looks around. There's no cameras in this room, but she kind of points. And there's like 4 cameras on every gate, all kind of pointed to the center of the room. But they're all actually, no, they're not pointed at the center of the room. They're all pointed at like the entrances of the gate. And she's like, they just seem to be watching. I get the vibe that they don't know where their reinforcements are coming in, and they're just trying to keep an eye out for them. But what I can also tell you, and she points at one of the departure boards, and it's just like a neon clock ticking down, and it says like 10 minutes. Or like an hour. We'll say an hour, so you've got a little bit of time to play around.
Okay.
That's been ticking down for 2 days.
Well, sure wish Tex had told me about this sooner, but that's fine. Anna, I think that we're gonna have to rekindle that old flame. And
there was never an old flame.
Well, I thought there was. I'm
just putting that forward. There definitely wasn't.
What about that time in Myanmar?
Yeah, professional courtesy.
Hey, it was a pretty courteous professionally, but I need you to set a fire as a distraction. That's what I was trying to say.
Okay, but I also bought us burgers. Like, it wasn't... I don't want you thinking this was more than it was. We were on a stakeout. I brought burgers. I said, hey, don't read anything into this. I brought burgers.
I guess maybe in the mists of time, I remembered that as something different. They were really good burgers, though.
They were good. They really were good. I'll tell you like the burger place after that. They're really great. The owner is she's just the nicest woman. Oh, it's really funny because like you wouldn't think that the best burgers are in Myanmar, but like I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
I think we get a shot of Anna's back because she's probably wearing like a strapless dress because of course she is, and we can see as she talks about the burgers, her tattoo started to show up because
and
they're
as soon
that
as she
good.
starts talking again about Milo, it's just like cold dead.
Well, all right. So normally I'm the one getting distracted, especially about food. But right now, I think we need to get everyone out of here as fast as possible. And I would really appreciate your help with the distraction.
Distractions are my specialty. I've got about like 14 contacts. You give me the word, we can start causing some trouble. We can't, I can't promise you much, but I can get you into the room with Simon and the gorilla.
That's all I need.
All right. And so, talk me through, let's skip to the big climax, because I want to skip to the really fun part.
Yeah.
But I also want to talk through, what does the distraction look like?
So, since we have professional spy contacts, originally I just wanted a trash can fire, but that's boring. So I want like an airstrike on one of the outer gates.
That's good. No, that's very good. But also, it's worth pointing out, there are like 6 trash can fires. Like, they're kind of just around.
That's probably the part Milo did. Well, they already were. He probably just put them close together, hoping to set off a fire alarm.
He was like, and like it to his credit, it did, but no one's paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's gonna make it more fun later because now there are fire trucks on the way. Good detail.
Haha.
All right, so the airstrike goes off, and what happens is the second it goes off, all hell breaks loose. The dozen or so spies that have been like just kind of waiting, not really sure when to act. We get a montage of like whispered notes and like people whispering in ears, and they just start like a fight scene breaks out. Like there's just dozens of martial arts fights all breaking out. The second like one of the gates, like one of the runways blows up.
We get a lot of cameos of different spy movie and action movie stars. They were quote unquote hostages. So
yeah.
The studio could only afford like 20 seconds of them a piece, but they spent a big chunk of their budget on that.
That's the whole trailer, right? Is like is just like all the different cameos of all this fight scene, and people watching it in the audience are just like, really? That's all the James Bond we're getting? That's disappointing. I kind of figured we were going to get a whole Lupin the Third sequence, but he's only kind of there for like one shot, and then Jigen shoots a guy and they run off. It's kind of disappointing, if I'm being honest.
You get the back of a bodybuilder who kind of looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger throwing someone through a window.
Yep, yes, indeed. So, all right, so let's set the stage for the big final battle. It is you, a robot gorilla, and this cyborg. It is a big... the clock is now at 10 minutes.
Okay.
Like, time is of the essence. We'll make it 1 minute, because, like, I kind of just want in the middle of this fight for the big thing to happen.
Yeah, I think that's good.
So it's 1 minute on the clock. You've made your way through. Tell me 3 cool things you've done before now.
So I think he definitely a mook snuck up behind him and had him held up with his hands up, and he managed to dodge the shot and hit the guy with his own gun, knocking him out.
That's cool. That's awesome.
And I think he also probably high-fived someone who looks like Bruce Willis.
Walking
in. And
no
then,
shoes, beat up tank top.
That guy walks by and just says ho 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 for no reason.
I think the two of you just kind of like lock eyes and shrug like it's been a long day.
And then the other cool thing, I think he walks into this main room with the robot gorilla and the scary jaw man, and just kind of wades through a crowd of the spies all fleeing, and there's smoke and fire behind him, and he just walks in very nonchalantly and tosses his sunglasses off to the side.
Perfect. Good. Great. Okay. So, yeah. The gorilla kind of like rushes you. Simon Vex sits back in his chair, points his gun at Tex, and just says like, I don't gotta lift a finger, because frankly speaking, if you get through Gorilla on the Gorilla of tomorrow, then I'll just kill your friend and kill you. Like, this isn't really a threat for me. And besides, I only got like a minute, so it's probably fine. And the gorilla rushes you, and we begin our final combat.
Oh boy.
Give me your initiative roll.
It's 1d6, right?
1d6 plus your speed.
I got a 12.
There it is. Speed, I get an 11. Now, you do not get your ability, so your attacks take 3 shots each, but you do go first.
I love that this game has stats for a robot gorilla in it.
Yes, it's just in the book. I wasn't going to use it originally. Like, I was just going to have you fight Simon, and then I saw there's a thing that says Cyber Ape, and I was like, okay, yeah.
How could you resist? All right, so I think the first shot of this fight is the gorillas charging full out towards Milo, and we get this cool slow motion of shot of Milo walking towards Gorillon and cracks his neck and just winds up and just throws a punch straight into its face as they get within striking distance of each other.
Yep. Good. Perfect. Give me that martial arts roll.
Ooh, I got a 12.
So you're going to take that minus the Cyber Ape's defense, which is toughness of 7. So your damage plus your smackdown. So that is 12. That is, what is that? 7 plus your smackdown is 0, so a straight 7. So you'll do 1 wound.
Nice.
So you punch him.
Yeah, Milo certainly shakes out his hand, and he's got masculine bleeding knuckles now, having punched a robot.
Got it. Okay, yeah. You punch it. It kind of like reels back, and it's gonna open up, its chest opens up, and a machine gun comes out, which seems like a weird thing to put on the gorilla of tomorrow, but hey, it's the future, right?
Yeah, it's for pest control.
Yeah. But does a 9 pass your defense?
It does not.
All right. It sprays wildly as it tries to control this what is essentially a minigun on its chest. And so it is now you're back up. We're back on the shot clock of 9. Which means it is your shot.
So Milo dove behind a pile of crates, which of course will protect you from a minigun.
Sure.
And he pops up and he says, "All right, Bubbles, it's time to get serious." And he takes a shot at him with his Walter PPK.
All right, give me that guns roll.
Ooh, that is a 10.
10 does not pass Gorillon's defense. That drops you down to shot of 6. Gorillon's going to take a shot at you. Does a 13 pass your defense?
Nope.
Okay. Yeah. So that drops him back down to 5. Take your next attack.
So I think
the two of you are just he's just spraying wildly. I think the boxes you're behind are eviscerated. They're just scrap.
I think Milo stands up amidst the hail of bullets and says, "Enough of these pea shooters." And he goes running towards the gorilla of the future, the gorilla of tomorrow, and he tosses the power source from the future rifle at the gorilla, trying to get it into its chest cavity.
Okay, give me a martial arts roll. Take your +1. If you succeed, you blow up the gorilla.
Sweet. Can I spend a fortune die after I've rolled? All right, I'm going to do that. Because that did not go great.
Great.
Okay, that's much better. So that's a 16.
Yeah, it blows up. It blows up, but like that marks the end of the sequence, and so then a big thing happens. As you stare down Simon Vex, monitors light up all around you as you see hover cars, like Blade Runner style hover cars, landing at one of the gates, and dozens more of these futuristic cyber runners jumping off of cars and running for the gates. Simon just smiles and says, like, reinforcements are here. What do you do?
Well, let's see. I think there's a payphone on the wall because this is an airport.
Yeah.
And Milo looks up at one of the cameras that he's sure that Anna is looking at, and he says, "If you could just give me 1 second there, Simon." And he walks over to the payphone and picks it up and just
that's weird, but okay, sure.
I think he just starts pounding on the 9 button over and over again, which is a secret spy signal to do the secret next stage of the plan that we totally had thought out already.
We get a flashback to where we lay all of this out.
Yeah. So, Anna, if these reinforcements are coming, I mean, I could take them on myself, but I think it would really help to extend hands over the Iron Curtain if we did this jointly.
And she kind of rolls her eyes and says, I will take care of the guys for you so you can fight the boss and look cool. I got it.
And you don't think we have a connection. You reading my mind.
And so, yeah, the fight scene spills out onto the gates. There are spies fighting hackers, Shadowrunners getting beat up by Stallone lookalikes. It's very cool. And now you're face to face with the $10,000 man.
Milo looks straight into his pink sunglasses, and we get one of those infinite mirrors facing each other things because he's wearing his sunglasses again, even though he threw them away. And you can see them reflected in each other's eyes. And he says, "You're just lucky she turned down my request for another airstrike." And he gets ready to fight.
Okay. Roll me your initiative.
All right. I got a 12 again. Milo's fast.
But Vex is faster. Vex got a 13.
Oh boy.
I think his hand, like, he opens up his hand and it starts spinning, and he comes at you with his buzzsaw hand. And that's not great. That's a 12. He misses.
Yeah, but it looks so cool.
It looks extremely cool.
I think he shears off a little strand of Milo's hair as he dodges out of the way.
Yep, Milo, you're up.
Really? We're gonna do this man-to-man, Metal Mouth, and he does a spinning back kick to his jaw.
All right, give me that roll. Yeah. I think as this is happening, Tex is, like, climbing to his feet and, like, fiddling with the binders, and at the end of this sequence, he will free himself, and then, like, the fight will escalate.
Well, Simon is obviously very capable because I exploded the negative dice 3 times and got a -5.
Good. Okay. So what I'm going to say then is that I actually am going to call this fight early.
Okay.
Because I think it's more interesting if he's got you at gunpoint. And because this is like the end, and we know you're gonna win, I'm gonna ask you up front. He's got you point blank. You are surrounded. You are surrounded. Laser rifles, shotguns, slug throwers, everything. Impossible odds. How do you get out of it? What's the ace up your sleeve?
I think the ace up Milo's sleeve is that he's also from the future.
What?
And his eyes glow red and lasers start to shoot everywhere, and he grabs Tex and rocket boosts out of the roof.
What? What a twist! Yeah. So now we have to go into deep flashbacks.
Yeah.
So this has disarmed me. I did not think that was not the suggestion I expected. But I love it and I want to roll with it. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, not sorry, Jeff.
No, it's good. That's a good ending. I totally did. That was a very feng shui ending.
So
yeah.
I have one. I could buy a second. I think we get a flashback to the burger scene with Milo and Anna. Mm-hmm. And she walks around the corner from the alley that they're staked out in to go get the burgers. And his hand like unfolds into a rifle with a scope on it. And he's looking at their target. And then she starts to come back around the corner. He quick snaps back to normal.
Oh, and I bet we do get a shot. We do get a shot that undercuts all of her talk of the two of you not having a connection, because 10 years earlier when you were being built, we see like a young lab assistant, Anna, is standing there as part of a multinational group to build the human of tomorrow.
There's a voiceover of a Russian scientist from off screen that says, "You will always have a special connection. He as your creation and you as creator."
And she says, "Wouldn't it be cooler if it was a gorilla, though? Like, just think about it. Wouldn't it be cooler if it was a gorilla?"
You know, that is a fair point. We will begin gorilla research immediately.
And we flash back to the present, and the two of you are having a giant robot fight. There is, and what does the closing exchange, what does the final blow look like? What does your big triumph look like?
I think, I think that there's a lot of extraneous fires and extras laying around, and Simon and Milo have each other gripped in both hands, and Milo says, "All right, Headgear, it's time to take the teeth out of this dog." And he rips his jaw plate free.
Good.
And it's not gross. There's just like a very obvious like blank prosthetic there. Yep. And then he smacks him over the head with it, which causes him to stagger. And then he punches through his chest.
Perfect.
Kali Ma style.
And that's pretty gross. But like, we've been kind of light on the blood until now to save up for that good PG-13 rating.
Yeah, so and you know, some of the gore is like wires and stuff. So.
Yeah, we made him a robot so we could do that to him pretty specifically. Oh, that's really good. Okay, yeah. So then we get shots of like a few more airstrikes the military takes. So we flash back to it, we cut forward to about a day later. How do you look different now that you understand, now that you know your true robotic heritage and you've come to grips with it?
I think that those sunglasses are still on, but he's where his open button down is now like really shiny future 70s chic.
Mm-hmm.
And he's cut his hair a lot shorter. So now it's like a fade kind of military cut.
I love it. Yeah, and you're standing around, Anna's there with you, and she's like, "Well, you know now, I suppose you have a place in our organization, independent from the military. You will never answer to anyone that you don't want to ever again. You don't have to take it, but the offer's yours." And the crowd, you look through the crowd and she's gone, and Tex just quietly looks at you and frowns and says, "I was sworn to secrecy. You couldn't have known what you were truly capable of. Were it me, I'd have wiped your mind all over again, but we've already done it about 6 times. It didn't seem right."
Milo had been in the process of like popping popcorn into his mouth, just looking nonchalant, and he stops mid-chew at that. "Huh, I wonder how old I am."
And at that point, you look through the crowd, and Tex is gone.
I gotta get better at that disappearing into the crowd thing. That's a really cool move.
And then, last but not least, you see we get one closing shot, because it is Feng Shui. And that is, there's a calamity, right? Like, you hear a crowd screaming, and you look at the dock, and dragon-shaped warships have docked at the shipyard, and, like, archers and sorcerers are hopping off and, like, rushing at the airline gates. And we just get Milo's face in very, like, "Here we go again." And then credits roll.
Wait, I've got a one-liner, Jeff. I've got a one-liner.
Hit me.
So, he goes, "Well, it looks like my ship's come in." And he bursts into robot arms and lasers and goes flying at them.
Perfect. And we credits roll, and that is Feng Shui too.
Oh, man, that was fun.
That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Nick, thank you so much for coming to Party of One. That was a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, real quick before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
Yeah, so on Twitter and Instagram, the podcast is tabletop_squad. That's anything if you want to find out about the podcast. We actually post recipes for food and drinks that we've mentioned in the show every other week, so just an extra thing there. And then you can find me on Twitter at alias58.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a blast, and I am going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me.
Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Nick for coming onto the show. That game was great. That game was so much fun. Be sure to check out Tabletop Squadron. Not only do you get a fun Star Wars actual play, you also get some fun Star Wars themed recipes on the way. What's not to love? Check that out at tabletopsquadron.com. You can also follow Tabletop Squadron on Twitter at tabletop_squad, and follow Nick on Twitter at alias58. Then while you're on Twitter, follow this show at Party of One Pod, then like the show at facebook.com/Party of One Podcast. Join our Discord at bit.ly/Party of One Discord to talk about the show, professional wrestling, role-playing games, all the stuff that I want to talk about. It's great. If you enjoyed the show, consider leaving us a nice iTunes review, a social media shout-out, or a word-of-mouth recommendation to a friend. Any of those things help new listeners find the show, which helps us grow larger and do bigger, better, and cooler things. You can also consider backing our Patreon at patreon.com/Party of One Podcast. Patreon backers get access to bonus materials, mini podcasts, and interviews, and Patreon dollars help pay for equipment fees, hosting costs, all the other little expenses, websites, and cool stuff like that. All the stuff that keeps the lights on, basically. That's patreon.com/Party of One Podcast. If you listen to this show and you thought, man, I really wish I had 45 minutes to an hour more of Jeff Stormer a week, well then you should check out All My Fantasy Children and get exactly that. All My Fantasy Children is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast powered by you. Every week, my best friend Aaron Catano Saez and I take a listener-submitted prompt and spin them into a fantasy character, populating a shared universe one story at a time. New episodes drop every Friday at allmyfantasychildren.com. Party of One is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran, featuring the D&D Sluggers. If you're interested in coming onto the show, whether you are a podcaster, game designer, professional wrestler, comedian, actor, writer, musician, kaiju financial guru, or you just love a good role-playing game, shoot me an email at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And that's it for me. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.